There is no reason to believe that getting older means getting sicker. It's a fallacy.
So today I'm excited to have with me healthy aging advocates, authors, speakers, and more recently YouTubers, Bob and Fran German. Guys, thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. So excited to bring your amazing stories to my audience.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Paul. Appreciate it very much.
You're so welcome. What struck me first about you two is how well you both look and how vital you both seem. I couldn't believe when I heard which decade of your lives you were both in. I don't know if it's rude of me to ask, but do you mind to share that with my audience?
I was born in May 1940, so I turned 80 7 months ago.
Wow.
And Bob caught up to me in August, so I'm 3 months older than him.
You're the
So
greatest.
for 3 months every year, I suffer.
Wow, you truly look amazing. If I look half as good as you at your age, I'll be so happy. So you both lived amazingly full lives and overcome serious illness, one of which you were told was irreversible.
Right.
There's so much for my audience to learn from you and so much to unpack. I thought we might start with you recounting the stories of your illnesses and how you both overcame them. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Ladies first.
Yeah. In 1992, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease called Myasthenia Gravis. Now, I know a lot of people haven't heard of it. It's not as widespread as like lupus or MS, but it's a very serious autoimmune disease. It affects your muscles. It affects the way the muscles get the message from receptors. And so it's Myasthenia gravis is Greek for extreme muscle weakness, and it's a very appropriate name. I went through some really bad times when I couldn't keep my head up. I couldn't open my eyes. We had to quit working because I was so sick. I couldn't drive. But what I wanted to point out is when I was diagnosed, my family doctor said, you'll always be on medication. There is no cure. And your lifespan will be shortened. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I didn't care for those comments too much. And so I started doing everything I could to counter that.
Can I just interject this? It started with our family doctor, but eventually we wound up going to 11 different neurologists.
Over the period of years, yeah.
And they all said the same thing. You're not going to live that long. You're going to have to take medicine every day for the rest of your life. Uh-huh. Things are going to be different. You're not going to have the energy, and on and on. But that just lit a flame under Fran, and she did something.
They didn't know how stubborn I am. And I didn't like that diagnosis. So I did everything I could to improve my health. I thought I was eating healthy, mm-hmm. white meat chicken, white meat turkey, fish, all the healthy foods. Mm-hmm. And strangely, we were living in South Florida at the time, and there were millions of people in the 3 local counties, and I never met another person with myasthenia gravis. Then in 2003, we moved to Hendersonville, North Carolina. It's a small town just south of Asheville. In the first week we were here, Bob noticed in the local newspaper that they had a support group.
Wow.
So for the first time in my life, I met other myasthenics. And let me tell you, they were pretty sick.
It was not good.
The woman who led the group was a retired nurse who was in a wheelchair. People went weekly and monthly to the hospital for treatments. And I thought, I don't want to be like that. What I noticed was that just about every single person had more than one disease. Mm-hmm. And think about it. When the body breaks down, all kinds of things can go wrong. There was heart disease, diabetes, you name it. They had other diseases. And I thought one disease was more than enough. Mm-hmm. And I kept trying to get better. But then, there's an expression, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes.
And 1 month, the support group had a nutritionist come from Asheville, and he explained with a series of slides how even eating white meat chicken compromises the immune system. Mm-hmm. And he recommended that we read the China study and Diet for a New America. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. That's by John Robbins.
Who's the author of that?
John Robbins.
Right. Of Robbins.
His family was Baskin Robbins ice cream.
Now I'm with you.
He chose to go the other way and not have anything to do with that dynasty. Okay, so I was the only one in the whole group who read the books and went immediately to a plant-based diet.
Wow.
And I will tell you that of all the people in the group who we were friends with, they all died within the next year or two, not from myasthenia, but from heart disease, diabetes, stroke, all the other terrible things that can happen. Mm-hmm. So this was in 2003 or 2006 that we learned about this diet and switched. Now, strangely, at the same time, Bob was having a problem that he'll tell you about.
So I was doing a lot of walking, power walking. I would power walk, and I mean, I could pass most people who were just walking, and some even jogging. I could walk faster than they could jog.
Wow.
But I enjoyed that. But I started, I probably did 6 to 10 miles a day, walking, trying to keep myself in shape. I've always been pretty thin, and I try to keep my body as in good shape as possible. For some reason, I started on one surface doing this walking, and then I switched to a different surface, and I developed a pain in my groin. And I went to a urologist, a local urologist, and he checked me out. He couldn't find anything, but he said, you're not a complainer. You don't go to the doctor very often. I think we need to have a CAT scan done. So I didn't really want to do the CAT scan. I don't like that infusion of radiation, but I did because I was concerned. And I came back to the office a few days later for the results. He said, I can't find anything wrong with your groin at all. I think it's a muscle thing. You pulled a muscle or something and it'll go away. But I did find a growth on your left kidney, on the outside of your left kidney, and you need to take care of it fast. He said he wasn't capable of doing the type of surgery that I needed. So we went to a very important, we don't live too far from Duke University Medical Center, which is an internationally known cancer center.
Right.
And I met a specialist there that I read about, and he was one of only 2 or 3 people in the United States who could do this particular surgery. It's called a cryoablation surgery, where he froze off this growth on my tumor, on my kidney, I'm sorry. So he then diagnosed it. He couldn't biopsy it because he said if it was cancerous it could kind of explode with that needle, and it could spread throughout my body. Mm-hmm. So he took it off, and then he biopsied it. And sure enough, he said, I did 3 biopsies, 2 came back okay, but 1 indicates that you have renal cell carcinoma. And I said, what is that? He said, it's cancer of the kidney. And I said, I'm not hearing this right. And I had him repeat this 3 times. I was absolutely stunned. And he said, no. He said, but there's good news and there's bad news. The bad news is that you have this, but the good news is that I got it all, as most of these guys always say, I got it all. But he said, possible bad news is that it could come back. It's the type of cancer that can come back. And I want you to be aware of that. Well, that was a sort of another wake-up call. And I remember driving home with Fran from that hospital, and it was about a 4-hour drive. And it was at that point when we agreed to do something about our lifestyle. So for us, going plant-based meant prevention for me, preventing that cancer from coming back. And for Fran, going plant-based was a total reversal of a disease. So we are role models for this idea of eating like your life depends on it, because it does depend on it.
Yes.
Whether you want to prevent getting sick or you want to reverse your illness.
That is fantastic.
But Paul, one thing we've learned over the years, because we've done a lot of talks before COVID, we were doing a lot of talks in person. Most people are not willing to change their diet to improve their health. Even when they have a serious life-threatening disease, they refuse to give up the foods that are causing the illness. We lost several good friends to prostate cancer because they refused to give up dairy, even though science has proven that hormone-related cancers are definitely connected to hormone foods like dairy products.
Yes, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you think these people just don't know? Do you think they don't believe it? Or do you just think they're that addicted to these?
I have an answer for that. I think that people, and I know Fran agrees with me, people feel that growing older means getting sicker. Well, I know if I'm going to be in the 70s, I'm going to have some health problems. If I get in the 80s, I could really have serious health problems. And we don't buy into that. There is no reason to believe that getting older means getting sicker. It's a fallacy. And so you have to take control of your own health. You can't just depend on what the doctor says.
Yes.
I'm not saying don't go to a doctor, but I'm saying you should do your own research as well. You know, when you go to a doctor, they may ask you to bring all your pills to see what kind of medicines you are taking, but they'll never ask you, what do you eat?
Right.
And it's what you eat that can either be healthful or harmful. And even doctors don't get it, mainly because they're just not trained in that.
No, they're not trained. And I think like most people don't eat this way. So they don't want to think that veganism can be correct, because if it is good for you, then they're bad people, because they hurt animals 3 times a day with their choices. So they don't want to hear it. They're not taught it in school. And that's what we're up against. But luckily now, I mean, you've got your YouTube channel as well. We've all got our social media platforms. And I think, as you said before we started recording, the tide is turning. I think people are starting to learn, aren't they?
I definitely think so. More and more people are understanding how beneficial it is to eat more veggies and eat less meat products.
Yes.
And also the dairy thing. More and more of our friends are edging that way.
Yes.
But yet we still have some friends, I swear, that eat no vegetables at all.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy?
The thing is, the thing is, as we age, no matter what your age is, if you're 28 or if you're 82 years old and you're watching this video, you have a long life ahead of you if you want it to be that way, long and healthy. So here we are in our 80s, and I mean, we have more energy than some couple of our grandkids, and we enjoy every single day. We're not hooked into tests and going to the doctor and having exams and getting more tests and waiting we don't do that kind of thing. There's too much going on in our lives, which are just so beautiful, regardless of our age.
I love it.
We actually have friends whose whole social life is visits to the doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go from one doctor to the next.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this way. We are living proof, and we appreciate a platform and an audience like Paul has, like all of you out there, giving us the time to hear our stories. And maybe if you're not on plant-based, or you're thinking about it, or you're on it and you may fall off the wagon, stay on the wagon.
I just wanted to go back to my story for a second, because I don't think I made it clear that after I switched to a plant-based diet, it was just a matter of weeks before I was off all medication.
Wow.
And had no symptoms. Now, I just want to explain one thing. One of the drugs that I was on for 16 years was prednisone. Prednisone is a very harmful drug. It can really hurt your body. And every time I tried to get off of it, I thought that the myasthenia was getting worse, and I couldn't get off of it. I had the good fortune of going to California to visit our son, who took me to a plant-based doctor, friend of his, and he explained that when you're on prednisone, and I'm mentioning this because I know a lot of people take it for a variety of reasons, it shuts down your adrenals. And so every time I tried to get off of it, I felt really sick.
Mm-hmm.
He explained to me that my adrenals were shot, and he had to build up the adrenal glands for maybe 8 or 9 months. And then he took me off the prednisone 1 milligram a month, so that my body adjusted to being without it. All the neurologists I went to never, ever explained that. And like Bob said, nobody ever mentioned food.
Yeah. So how long have you guys been disease-free now? Is it like 1.5 decades?
We're into our 15th year now.
Wow. That is so amazing. Total disease reversal when 11 specialists told you that's not possible.
And I have to tell you, we have a really good insurance plan, and I get a call from them almost monthly asking if they could send a nurse over to check me out, because I'm not taking any medication and I'm not going to the doctor every week. Something must be wrong.
Oh. They just don't know, do they? They just don't know. Can I just, Fran, just ask you about, because you said you had double vision for a long time now. At times in my life, I've suffered with migraines, and that's been in the form of the aura, where your vision is distorted and you can't see. And that kind of wrecked my quality of life, because I didn't like to make plans. I didn't want to do public speaking because I didn't know if it was going to come on when I'm on stage. And, it was horrible. It really halted my life. How did you cope with the double vision? Was that hard to deal with?
Horrible. My double vision was like this.
Wow.
So bad that they couldn't even put a prism in my glasses. I had a plastic prism that had like lines through it. It looked like I was looking through a window shade.
Wow.
But with most myasthenics, double vision changes from day to day. Mine stayed the same. So after several years, I actually went to a surgeon, a very famous surgeon in Miami, Florida, who did what's called strabismus surgery, where she actually, I had like string pulling my eye so that my vision could be put like this.
Wow.
You had to be awake for it. That was fun.
Oh, wow.
But
fun.
Usually this type of double vision is common in small children because it was just a birth thing and they can correct it. Yes. I was probably the oldest person she ever operated on.
Wow. And it gave you normal vision back.
Yeah.
How good is that? See, we myself as well, we do bemoan, modern medicine, but in certain ways they can be miracle workers too, can't they, these doctors and stuff. And so I don't like anyone to think I'm sort of poo-pooing all of them, No. What else did I want to ask? Oh, and then for Bob, did the doctor said that there was a chance of relapse. Did he tell you like the sort of odds and how many years like that it might come back kind of thing?
No, he didn't go into great detail, but he said he had seen this type of cancer before and he wanted to give me a heads up on it. And so I took it quite seriously. Well, it's been 15 years now. So I've had a great 15-year run.
Yeah.
And
Well, tell him about the doctor.
oh, and you know, he sort of, when I told him that on a subsequent visit, when I told him that I decided to go plant-based, he sort of like laughed it off a little bit. But I found out later on that actually he went plant-based as well. So that was really a win for us. We love that one.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Well, Paul, I don't know what's happening in Europe, but here there's a kind of a trend towards a new kind of medicine called lifestyle medicine, where some schools are actually teaching the students how to cook plant-based.
Medical schools.
Medical schools.
Yeah, I don't think there's that much in the way of that over here. I could be just out of the loop though. You'd hope so, wouldn't you? Because, you know, people are learning like previously, you know, big business, big pharma, you know, they had all the money and, you know, you just had one type of mainstream media where it was all that propaganda. But now, you know, as we say, the truth's coming out. So you would think that it ought to be starting to catch on, wouldn't you?
I don't know how the schools are financed in Europe, but from what I understand, most of the medical schools in the States are financed by pharmaceutical companies.
Yes.
Therefore.
Yeah. And some of the food industries as well, is that right? I think some of the food industries for some of the...
For sure.
Oh, I mean, they just came out with a study that said that milk, if you don't drink milk, your bones will break, you know.
Yeah.
Well, obviously the dairy industry is getting nervous because plant milks have become so popular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, their days are numbered.
Let me just tell you that I have been off dairy. I was never a big dairy drinker, but I've been off dairy now for 15 years.
Yeah.
And my bones seem stronger than ever. We hike almost every day, and I've taken some pretty serious falls because, you trip.
We hike on mountains.
We climb mountains.
That sounds like hard.
And so far, no broken bones. So I don't think and I haven't lost any height. So I don't think that I'm having a problem with my bones.
I've been whole foods vegan now for 8.5 years. I've leg pressed 400 kilos. My bones didn't snap. So if they were going to snap, they would have snapped. Very
good.
I assume you saw the movie Game Changers.
Oh, how amazing was that? I was just upset that they cut my scene out. I did get filmed for that, but they had something like 600 hours worth of footage for.
I'm sorry to hear that, Paul.
It's still understandable, I suppose. It's still that though. So you switched to whole foods, plant-based in your mid-60s. Have I got that right?
Yes, exactly right.
So young people telling me, "Oh, I can't eat that way. Like I need my meat." Like people can change at any age, then obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We agree, and we try to. When we talk about aging, because we're all about aging.
Yes.
It doesn't matter where you start. We're all aging. Mm-hmm. So even if you're 35 years old, you're starting to age, and you have to think about how you want to feel and how you want to look when you're 55 years old.
Yes.
So we say, start now, give it, and if you're new to this, even if you try this for 30 days or 45 days, I mean, you will see the difference and feel the difference in your energy and the way you look and how you sleep. It's almost like a magic,
yes.
But it's not. It's really, there is a physical component to this, and I think there is a mental component as well. We just feel good all the time. We're always up. And
it's never been easier. When we started this, there was very little online as far as recipes and things. Now people say, well, I don't know how to make this, vegan.
Yeah.
Let's Google it. Yeah. I mean, it's so easy.
It's all there for free. What are some of your favorite resources for recipes and things?
Well, we have the good fortune of being friends with a young woman who lives in North Carolina, who went to the physicians committee for a nutritional medicine, Neil Barnard.
TCRM with Neil Barnard.
Yeah. And she's certified with him, and she does cooking classes.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to take some classes with her, and
we did some presentations with her, and we've really turned a lot of people around onto it. I mean, we have seen firsthand in doing our little seminars, firsthand how people can lose an incredible amount of weight in a healthy way pretty darn quick. We've also seen people with diabetes
type 2 diabetes.
Reverse type 2 diabetes in 30 days.
Or even
they're
less.
Amazed.
Yeah.
And so I remember we had a very good friend of ours. We spent over a 9-year period, we spent a lot of time in Thailand. Thailand, by the way, is like
it's vegan heaven.
It is like we could walk to 40 different vegan restaurants and have a beautiful meal that wouldn't cost more than $1.
Wow.
And but we had a friend there that was a young man, probably in his early 40s, and he was diagnosed with cancer.
Very serious.
And we suggested to him to go plant-based, to do some meditation every day, and just see what happens with this cancer. And he did that, and he did even more than that. I mean, it was a real wake-up call for him, and he really started taking care of his body. And he refused to go for the doctors wanted him to come back for blood tests every 2 months or something like that. And he didn't want to do it. And he gave himself, I think, 6 months. And finally, after 6 months, he went back for testing, and they called him in. They said, we have to do the tests all over again.
Something's wrong.
He said, we cannot find that cancer anymore.
So obviously the test wasn't right.
And he did. He went back again and again. And I think the third time, and they never could find the cancer again. And he said the doctors were just scratching their heads, saying, what the heck is going on? But the doctors didn't ask, what did you do?
They never seem to ask that.
So frustrating, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is.
But that man that owes you his life. That must feel very nice. Well done.
It's kind of a battle sometimes with the doctors. Like one time we were giving a talk, and the first part of our talk was showing the movie What the Health. And then the second part, we talked about how we changed our diet and gave them ideas. And a doctor here in town came to one of our talks, and she was very friendly. She introduced herself, and she sat down and she took copious notes during the movie.
Wow.
And then she asked if she could sit with us during lunch. And we thought, uh-oh. And she tore apart the movie. She's a geriatric doctor, and she insisted that diabetes is caused by sugar, even though Neil Barnard explains in the movie that it's actually caused by fat. And she dispelled the whole thing. She would have nothing to do with it. And this, unfortunately, is not terribly unusual with doctors. They're so close-minded about some things.
But at the same time, there are more and more doctors that are getting into it. So keep the faith. Yeah. Our personal doctor is totally plant-based. Garth Davis, who you probably know of, Paul. Yeah. He is now working in a hospital nearby.
Oh wow!
So yeah, and so more and more good stuff is happening with regard to eating plants and eating less meat.
Yeah,
and so
plus you save money.
It's cheaper.
People say, I can't do that. It costs too much. No.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? So, I mean, people watching are going to want some of what you guys have got. You look and they're so amazing, as I said, and you're so vital and full of life. I know that the whole foods plant-based nutrition is not the only thing you do in terms of healthy lifestyle practices. What do you have, like a daily routine, and what does that look like? What kind of things do you implement?
So we have 2 daily routines. We have a morning routine, which we strongly advise people to think about doing. And by the way, I have to give a little plug here, if I may, because the instructional for this morning routine is in our book. So we have written a book called 101 Ways to Be Young at Any Age. And in this book, there's 100 suggestions on how to reverse your aging. So when you're our age, like in the 80s, we're old, but we don't act old. We don't feel old. We don't think old. We don't dress old. We haven't like given up on life. We're just starting. We're able to reinvent ourselves, and so can you, no matter what your age is. So the idea of a morning routine, it's in this book. The book, by the way, is you can get this on Amazon. We don't take any of the money. The book is $12 US. You can get it in the UK. We've sold a lot into the UK. And all the money goes to a anti-child trafficking organization that Fran and I have created to fight illegal trafficking of children into the sex trade.
Yes.
Our morning routine would consist of stretching. You can do any kind of stretching. Just get those bones stretched out and your muscles stretched out. And then we would advise you to do some aerobic exercise. For us, it's walking. And we would advise you to do a little bit of brisk walking. Now, this is all within only 1 hour time. So you're going to start with a few minutes of stretching. Then you're going to walk for, say, 20 minutes, get your heart going. Then we ask you to actually reverse that, to then slow down and sit quietly. So maybe sit quietly, you can call it prayer or meditation or whatever you want to call it, but just let your mind become single focused on your breath. So just focus on your breath and sit quietly for 5 minutes, for 8 minutes, 10 minutes, and you'll find that it's just an enjoyable, peaceful thing that brings you some inner peace. And another thing we do that has been a lifesaver for us, a real game breaker, and that is we have learned and practiced and taught the art of, it's an ancient Chinese art form called Qigong. So Qigong is like Tai Chi. So you've seen maybe some people doing Tai Chi in a park somewhere. Qigong is easier to do because you don't have to memorize a sequential set of exercises or movements, and you just follow the teacher. So we could be your teachers. If you go to our YouTube channel, we have a lot of these Qigong videos. They're all free, and you just follow along. So we suggest doing some Qigong. The idea of Qigong is to build your energy and to lower your stress. So it's this magic duality. Think about it. More energy, less stress. Who wouldn't want that? We find that that is an important part of our life.
That sounds
finally in the hour of power in the morning, we have a nice healthy breakfast, and it consists mainly of seasonal fruits, and we like seeds and some nuts and
oatmeal.
We like oatmeal once in a while as well, but Fran makes great her own oatmeal recipe, and so the food part is important. But that's how we start. We also do an hour of power in the afternoon before dinner. Similar. But it takes, I think, a bit of a regimen to get in that groove where you're looking forward to doing it. And if you don't do it, you sort of feel a little out of whack, and you sort of, it's probably like lifting weights, or if you were a runner, you get that runner high. And if you don't run that day, it's sort of, got the blahs a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, develop a regimen, take care of your body. So eating is like the number one key. So the second main key is controlling your stress levels, not getting stressed out, not overreacting to things, not consuming so much news that's going on. Just do your own thing. By the way, with the news, you're not going to change anything. You're not going to change these politicians or whatever is going on in the world. You can only change yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And when you change yourself, it just opens up. You become free. Your mind is free, and you just feel so centered, and it's fun. Living is fun.
Yeah. I've heard a phrase, it's better to wear slippers than to try to carpet the world. Is that quite fitting?
I never heard that one.
Beautiful. I love it.
That. I don't know who said it. I think
that could be another video for you, Paul.
Just very quickly, it's a little off topic, but you mentioned about the child trafficking project that you support. So I donate money to one called Project Child Safe by Ty Ritter. Is that the one, or?
No, we have our own, and we work closely with some people on the ground in Thailand and in Burma. So our whole deal there is prevention.
Right.
So we try to build schools. We try to educate these young people and the little villages that are vulnerable to people wanting to steal kids and make false promises and such.
Yeah.
And so it's education, it's bringing medicine and health to them. And it's all about prevention. So that's the only way we feel you can stop the cycle of generational trafficking. So that's where.
If anyone wants to donate towards that, how can they do that?
I think you can go. We have a website. It's Bob. What is our website name? bobandfran.com. That's BOBNFRAN, bobandfran.com. You can just click on the tab about child trafficking. You can make a donation. That would be very appreciative. Also, if you buy our book, which would benefit you, all that money, that's a nice little donation. And that would be another way to do it. But thanks for bringing that up.
Oh, no worries. That's fantastic. It's something that people are sort of almost frightened to talk about. And the people I support, they're the kind of next step, I guess. They're ex-special forces in FBI, and they actually look kind of like mercenaries, I suppose, and they find that intel and they go in to rescue the children. And I've heard some of the stories in this. It's devastating. It just... it's really hard to hear, and so thank you guys for doing that. That's
we're
huge.
trying to get at the stage before that where the girls don't even become taken. The big problem in Thailand, northern Thailand, has refugees from all those neighboring countries, and they're not citizens, so they have no rights. They can't get the education or the medical care, and that's why they're so vulnerable to selling their daughters. This used to be a big drug trafficking area, but child trafficking is much more profitable because you can use these people over and over again. If you use a drug, the drug is gone.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem up there. And that's what we're trying to do is educate and provide health care so that they don't have to give in to these horrible people.
Good for you guys. That's fantastic. Very nice. Right, back on topic. What does your average day of eating look like? So you said you have your thing in the morning. You've said about. Do you have 3 meals, or do you have more than that?
Oh, at least 3. No, one thing I have to tell you, we are both very, big eaters.
Fran eats like a truck driver. I
I
can't
just don't
believe it.
swear like one. No, we love to eat. I know people who couldn't care less about food.
They
Just eat to live.
eat to live.
But we really do live to eat. We love to eat.
So one thing that Fran is fantastic at, we've been fortunate in our life, and we've traveled to over 75 countries. So Fran will say to me in the morning, "What country do you want to go to tonight?" And I might say, "Well, let's go to Greece."
That's
Oh,
lovely.
good. So I'm going to do a Greek gyro platter, and she does. And it's all plant-based. It's all delicious, and it's unique. So
Yes.
Fran has made cooking
It's an art. It's a hobby.
it's become her hobby, not a chore.
Yeah.
So we look forward to it. Eating is like a highlight for us. We we look forward to it.
And most meals are okay. Now and then we have a failure.
Yeah, she tries the different things, but
That's good.
I wonder where we might be going to tonight.
Well, I'm not sure if my order of produce comes. I was thinking of making some Vietnamese pho.
Yeah.
Oh, now I've heard you're good at that one. I'm not familiar with pho. Is that kind of it's normally not plant-based, is it? Does it have?
Oh, actually, pho is either beef or pork-based broth. But
Right.
I think most Vietnamese restaurants will serve what they'll call noodle soup. They'll change the name, and that would be a vegetarian option.
Okay.
I make it with a vegetable broth and with bok choy and shiitake mushrooms. And,
Lovely.
And rice noodles. So it's a noodle soup with veggies, and the mushrooms are great. The shiitake mushrooms.
And they usually serve hoisin sauce and shiraka sauce on the side to make it as spicy as you want.
But you can Google
some kind of legume or tofu in there as well.
Oh, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I just got an air fryer, so I can
They're great, aren't they?
Tofu.
They're great. I love an air fryer. Yeah, I got given one to promote in a video, and we love it. You can make so many great things and so quickly as well. That's really good.
And I've got my Instant Pot, which is also becoming a daily thing. It's great.
We're yet to get one, but I hear they're a good investment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
My kids gave me one for, was it my
birthday or something?
It was, I think it was my 80th birthday, which is 7 months ago, and I only started using it recently.
Right.
And once you start using it and get over the fear of it, it becomes an essential item in
That's our next purchase. And so, do you take a care to add in all the different types of whole plant foods at each meal? Do you have a sort of strategy for that?
Not really.
Not a real strategy.
Whatever.
I tell you, what we've enjoyed is experimenting with different grains.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just rice. I mean, there's just so many different grains like farro and quinoa and barley, and and
there's some I haven't even tried yet.
Yeah, and it's fun. And Fran has come up with some good ideas for working people. You can use that Instant Pot to make a beautiful soup
or stew or curry,
casseroles. And so if you do those on a weekend, they can last you for several meals.
Batch cooking is such a great strategy.
Batch cooking, that's a good phrase.
Yeah.
Have you guys tried the grain teff before?
Never heard of it.
I got that a little while ago and made some porridge with it, with berries. Yeah. It was delicious. Yeah.
How do you spell that?
TEFF.
Oh, teff. I never heard of it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I want to try farro you mentioned. I want to try that. I've not tried that yet. Because for a while, I think that's a sort of a type of wheat, isn't it? I was gluten intolerant for a time. But then I was diagnosed with SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Cured that. And now I can eat all the gluten I want. So I want to try all the grains.
I'm glad you mentioned gluten because it's a big, big fad here in the States that gluten-free everything.
Yes.
But I tend to believe that people aren't necessarily gluten intolerant.
Yeah.
They're GMO intolerant.
Okay. Yeah.
And if they eat organic grains, I don't think they have the problem. We met a man once who he gets so sick from gluten, and then he went to Europe on a trip. Okay. And he said he ate everything and it was fine because they didn't have the GMOs.
Yeah, go figure. There was one real gut specialist, I don't know if it was Dr. Bolshevitz or Alan Desmond, but they were talking about how gluten, there's something in gluten or grains with gluten that feeds certain gut bacteria, because there can be hundreds of different types of these bacteria, can't they? And certain ones eat certain types of fiber and polyphenols and things. And they were saying, like, it really does compromise your gut. You're not going to have such good health if you can't actually feed these particular bacteria. So if you can eat some gluten, like you really should, was his perspective.
Uh-huh. Well, we eat a lot of gluten.
Yeah, we do.
We're glutinous. Another big, I guess you'd call it a fad in the States, is the keto diet.
Right.
And that's just the opposite of how
it's terrible, isn't it?
And we actually had a student coming to our Qigong class who was diabetic. Yeah. And her doctor put her on a keto diet. Yeah. And she lost her eyesight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're going to be adding more intramyocellular lipids, blocking the insulin. So it can sort of make you think you're doing all right because you're not given a glycogen load. You're not basically sort of stressing it. But that doesn't mean that you're cured. It means you're not getting the symptoms because you're not putting in glycogen, but you could be making the problem, which, as we said earlier, is the fat in the cells, like, worse. So that's real backwards thinking, isn't it? Terrible.
And of course, I'm sure you get the same thing that we get all the time. But where do you get your protein?
Yeah, I even named my first cookbook that.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about a story. When we moved we're from Chicago originally, and we moved from Chicago to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And then we moved halfway back up to North Carolina. If you can take out your globe, your world map.
We're called halfbacks.
So they call us halfbacks. Started here, went down here, now we're halfway back. And in in the South, in the U.S., it's a little different kind of culture here. It's a lot more conservative, and boy, if you want to go out to dinner, you have to be prepared to see maybe 10 or 15 barbecue restaurants on the way to wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
So barbecue is king down here, and I remember that Fran and I, for many years, volunteered in a crisis center where we help people. Who may need food or groceries, people going through a financial crisis, may need rent paid and such. And it was all volunteer based. And I remember one morning I was what they called an intake interviewer. I would talk to the people that came in for help and determine how we could help them. And one day before we opened for business, another volunteer, a little old gray-haired, sort of a blue-haired lady with short curly hair, and old lady, she stuck her head into my.
You think she was 80?
Yeah, she must have been 80. She stuck her head in my office doorway, and she said, "Are you Bob German?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." That's the way they talk down here in the South. "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Are you married to Fran German?" "Yes, ma'am." "Is it true that you two are both vegans?" "Yes, ma'am, we are." "Can you tell me where that church is located?"
That's it, scratcher.
So they didn't know much about vegans until we came to town. Now we got a whole bunch of vegans in our town.
That's really fantastic. What was I going to ask? So obviously, same as me, you came to Whole Foods Plant-Based for your health. Has the animal rights and environmental aspect of veganism, has that become a part of what you do now, or how you think?
Yeah, it kind of snuck in after a while, for sure.
definitely. It's
Because you really weren't thinking about it before.
Yeah.
we were pretty egocentric about our health. And then we saw more and more how going vegan, eliminating killing of animals was good for the planet, and is of course good for the animals.
And
So-
another big problem that, we haven't talked about is these factory farms seem to be possibly the cause of these viruses.
Yes. Yeah, the pandemic, zoonotic.
Yes.
I think the CDC said 75% of new emerging, infectious diseases are zoonotic in nature. And, it's these, factory farms and the wet market, and even hunting as well. I think Ebola and AIDS came from the bushmeat trade, I think I've heard. So we just need to leave animals alone, don't we? And then we don't get these horrible things. It's karma.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
It's karma. And then obviously, the worst thing I think probably that could happen would be the antibiotic resistant superbugs that are, these animal agriculture, like the factory farms, are a breeding ground. Like,
absolutely.
We could be back in the dark ages where a little scrape or whatever, and you're going to be dead.
Right.
Antibiotics won't work. So
Yeah.
it's amazing that people are not catching on. I mean, I don't know if you know the activist Earthling Ed. He's an English sort of animal rights activist, and he made a post all about this on Instagram, and it got removed. They did not want that getting out.
Oh my
Isn't that
gosh.
terrifying?
That's pretty sad.
But hopefully the message is starting to get out. I'd like to ask you, you're such a fantastic couple. You seem perfect together. How long have you said you started dating quite early on, didn't you?
First week of college.
College. So how many years is that? My maths is terrible.
Oh my God.
I think it's about, it's been hell, really.
62 years. We met 62 years ago.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah. You're obviously doing something right. What would you say are your top tips for, maintaining a wonderful relationship like you've got?
I tell you, there's one way to cure every argument that you may have. And I get the last words in every argument that we have, which is pretty rare. And those words are, yes, dear. So think about that.
I'll bear that in mind.
You have
remember that with Gemma.
You have to take your significant other or your spouse. You have to take them with the good parts and the bad parts.
I thought you were going to say with a grain of salt.
No salt in our diet. But I think, I think a mutual respect and just going with the flow of life and not making a big deal out of things.
Mm-hmm.
We wrote. I think we have an article in our book called NBD.
No big deal.
No big deal.
No big deal. I love it.
And nothing is a big deal in the end. So lighten up.
That's lovely. Okay, now tell us about your YouTube channel. So you started that sort of at the start of COVID, have I got that right?
Well, I think we might hold the world's record being the oldest, newest YouTubers in the world.
I would think so. I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, thanks, Paul.
So Paul was nice enough. Paul is a very extremely well-known YouTuber for those who don't know, or if you're watching it now on YouTube, you do know. And he reached out to us. We have Paul has about 20 times as many followers as we hope to have, but we did start a channel and we did it on healthy aging. And we just wanted to pass along our philosophy on aging in a healthful, happy way where you could live longer and without illness, without being hooked on these doctors and pills. And I have to tell you that we've helped so many people. I can't imagine the happiness that Paul has from the thousands of people that he helps. And for him to dedicate his life to doing good is the most honorable thing I think a human being can do. People often ask us, especially young people, like, what is the meaning of life? And all these basic questions. Well, the meaning of life is to us is a life with meaning. It's doing good for others. Mm-hmm. That is the highest high you can get. And it's sort of selfish in a way, because
it makes you feel better.
It makes you feel great.
Yeah.
And it helps so many people. So our channel is devoted to aging in a healthy way, and to being happy, to reducing stress, to just going with the flow of life. We've spent, this is a little off topic, we've spent a lot of time in our life studying Buddhism. You can be any religion, any religion at all, and still take advantage of the Buddhist practices, the basics of Buddhism, of loving kindness, of doing good, of helping others. And it's been a guiding light for us, and we try to incorporate these things in our daily life.
I love it. And the channel name is Young at Any Age, isn't it?
It's called Young at Any Age.
I'll put a link
the whole
down below
idea.
so people can find you.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, that would be good.
Not a problem.
I know Paul is so gracious. He'll put it in the description in below, and maybe the same for our book, if you wanted to read our book and donate to the charity.
I'll put a little link. Let me just make a little note so I don't forget to do that. And is there anywhere else online that people can find you?
No. No.
Oh, you've got your website.
We have a website, a sort of a meager website, but the good part about our website, it gives you a lot of resources. So you can do your, where to find recipes, what online doctors that we follow. And I'm sure that a lot of them are very similar to what Paul, but it's sort of a one-stop shop for resources. And that is www.bobandfran.com.
Fantastic. Bob and Fran, thank you so much for being with us today, taking the time out, because time is the most precious thing we've got. And thank you on behalf of the people, the planet, and the animals for all you guys do.
Thank you. Namaste to all of you. And
have a wonderful new year.
Yeah, let's make 2021
the best year ever.
You can do it. Yes. And it starts with eating the right food, I think. It just makes you feel great.